Welcome everyone to our webinar. Just before we start, a few interesting details about our company. Zenturo was incorporated in 2006 here in Malta, and our offices are located in Santa Venera, which is about 10 minutes from Valletta, the capital. Our staff speak several languages, including English, German, Italian, Spanish, Russian, and Chinese. But if you need another language, you can always find an interpreter. If you have any questions after the webinar, feel free to contact us by email, or even you can call us by phone or send us a message by WhatsApp, wherever you prefer. We work with several licensed immigration attorneys, and today's webinar will be held by Dr. Atar Baldacchino.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you everybody who's taking the time to join our webinar today. Just a brief introduction about myself. I'm a licensed agent with Community Malta Agency, which allows the assistance for the Citizenship for Exceptional Services regulations and the Malta Permanent Residency Program. And I've been in the industry since it started more or less in 2014. And launched my own practice in 2020. So since then, I've been working quite closely with Zenturo in order to assist clients from all parts of the world. So moving on to, let's say, get the webinar started, we can go to the next slide and effectively start off with a brief disclaimer. So we do make all efforts to ensure that the information being provided is accurate, correct, and up to date. However, it's important to know that this should not be considered as any formal advice of any nature. That being said, if such consultation or advice is required, we'll be more than happy to assist and potentially also introduce to any relevant practitioners, depending on the subject matter. So, disclaimer out of the way, we can move on to today's agenda for the webinar. And I apologize if anybody's been on the previous sessions, but we'll start off again with a brief introduction about Malta. And then the hot topics at the moment. We've had the general election results a few weeks ago, and there's the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine at the moment, which obviously is a very sensitive matter, not only affecting Malta, but the global crisis. We have the update with COVID, most specifically looking at the situation in Malta. And then how all of this is impacting Malta's investment migration industry, together as well with the ongoing political discussions between Malta and the European level of politics. We then have some news to announce about the upcoming visits internationally, where if you are interested, you'd have the opportunity to meet me in person outside of Malta. And we'll close off with the next steps on how to go about getting in touch or starting the process for one of the programs or assistance you may need. So we'll move on to the first slide about Malta. So location, if some of you are not yet aware, Malta is centrally located in the middle of the Mediterranean, just south of Italy and north of North Africa. Very well connected in terms of air routes. So you're going to have daily or multiple flights a week to the main international airports, and you would not have much issues getting to Malta or back to wherever you're traveling from. Population of Malta is around 500,000, although it's good to note that prior to COVID, Malta did get around 2.5 million tourists per year. So if you consider the very small size of the island, the population and the high volume of tourism that the island attracts, Malta is quite a busy and bustling jurisdiction. When it comes to the language, which is a key determining factor for a lot of our clients, the good news is that although we have our national and official language, which is Maltese, English is also an official language in the Maltese constitution. That means you're going to have most people you meet in Malta will speak both English and Maltese. The educational system is available in English. The healthcare system you can access also of the people working in the hospitals, and the healthcare industry will also speak in English. so you don't have to worry much about the language. And in terms of lifestyle, we are a southern European jurisdiction, so we have good weather, we've got the beaches, we've also got some sister island, Gozo, and the smaller island, Comino, so you can get to relax and enjoy yourself and take advantage of the good weather. In fact, Malta is selected by many as a good place for a retirement option and second home. So definitely most people who spend their time here tend to enjoy it as well. And the weather and the lifestyle is pretty laid back. That being said, we still have a very hardworking labor force and a lot of skilled labor present in Malta, since Malta is based on the services industry. So that's a bit about Malta, and moving on now to the next slide. We will be looking at what happened just a few weeks ago. So Malta held its national general elections. The election was won by the Labour Party, which was the party in government prior to the election. And in terms of a history, obviously there's a very long history of the Labour Party in Malta. However, if we look at the recent history, the party came into power in 2013. And has since maintained its position as the leading party in government. So if we had to take a look at the current policy focus, I think the crucial factor here to point out is that it was the Labour government that introduced the first Citizenship by Investment program and the subsequent permanent residency program. And the general feeling over here is that the Labour government intends to proceed with an element of continuity. In other words, despite factors that we will be discussing in a later slide, the intention seems to be that the government wishes to maintain the investment migration programs, whilst at the same time taking into consideration the feedback that is being received. But I will touch into this in further detail. So if we look at the future outlook and compare it to the historical situation, Malta's political situation is rather resilient and stable. So this is in fact the third time that the Labour Party has been re-elected as the governing party. And the administration has just started, so as I mentioned earlier, it seems that we should see continuity, and hopefully coming out of COVID, the economy and tourism and the services sector should start seeing another positive growth again. So that's the impact of the general election results. Now moving on to the next slide. We're here looking at the conflict that is taking place between Russia and Ukraine at the moment. The idea here is only to look at the objective points of the situation, and most notably the impact this is having on Malta and Malta's investment migration programs. So, I mean, from a practical perspective, Malta is geographically located relatively farther away from other European jurisdictions on the mainland or mainland Europe. So we are pretty much safer. I do hope that things do improve and not get worse, but luckily Malta is positioned in a more geographically safe location than other jurisdictions. In terms of the impact on the programs, it hasn't had much of an impact apart for individuals who are citizens of Russia or Belarus. So some weeks ago, the Maltese government took the decision to stop accepting new applications from individuals who are either Russian or Belarusian citizens, and also took the decision to suspend applications that were in process for Russian or Belarusian citizens. So we are not sure of the way forward. However, when we do have updates from the Maltese government, these will obviously be communicated. In terms of individuals who are either Ukrainian citizens, there is no suspension there, so Ukrainian individuals may freely apply for the various programs, and the Maltese government is offering an element of support for individuals who needed to relocate from Ukraine. So again, in this situation, obviously it's a very sensitive topic. So please, if you wish to discuss your personal situation, do get in touch so that the team can see what options are available. So after that, we will move to the next slide, and this is rather positive over here. So the last few years have been very, very difficult for everyone around the world with the travel restrictions and obviously all the economical implications that COVID has had. However, if I had to take a perspective of the current situation in Malta, from a practical perspective, we have most of the population here that has not only been vaccinated, but also had the booster shot. However, this does not mean that there is any imposition or pressure for individuals to be vaccinated. In fact, a few days ago, the travel restrictions to Malta have just been reduced. As a result of this, individuals from most countries around the world can travel to Malta with just a negative COVID test. Prior to this, individuals had to be vaccinated, and the vaccine had to be a recognized vaccine by the Maltese government. But a few days ago, this has changed, and now, unless you are traveling to Malta from a country which is listed on the dark red list, which I will get to in a second, it is very unlikely that you would need to face any quarantine procedures. So at the moment, most of the time, if you're coming to Malta, a negative COVID test or a vaccine certificate should be sufficient to enter into Malta without the need to quarantine. However, as a caveat to this, the changes are taking place very frequently. So the best source, unless you want to reach out directly to us, would be to check the Deputy Prime Minister or the Health Minister's website, which is on the slide that you can see at the moment. And this specific COVID-19 page is going to highlight what the travel restrictions are, which countries are on the dark red list, and you can very much and pretty quickly get an idea of what restrictions you need to abide by in order to get here. But again, I have had some clients who arrived in the last few days that previously would have needed a vaccine certificate, but they got through the airport now under the new restrictions just with a negative COVID test. So that's good news about Malta. There is also mention, although mask wearing is required in certain places at the moment, there is mention as well that we expect potentially to have a mask-free summer. So I would go ahead and say that compared to a few months ago, things do feel much more like normal. So at least in Malta, the COVID situation has improved drastically. And that will take us to the next point, which is now going to be more focused on the investment migration programs themselves. So as I mentioned, we have two primary programs, Citizenship for Exceptional Services, which will allow for the granting of citizenship after a period of residency of either 12 or 36 months. And we have the Malta Permanent Residence Program, which in around 9 to 12 months will grant a Maltese certificate of residence and a Maltese residence permit. So as a result of the situation in Europe and in terms of the COVID aspect, things have very much improved. So it's easier to get to Malta if you want to actually take advantage or go ahead with one of these options. So there's easier COVID restrictions, and in terms of safety, geopolitically, things are looking better than they did. And the question here is mainly about what is happening between the Maltese government and the European political powers. So a few weeks ago, it was voted with an overwhelming majority that citizenship by investment programs should be outright banned throughout Europe, and that residency by investment programs should be harmonized or regulated to an extent on a common level throughout the European Union. So From a practical perspective, Malta at the moment has less than 2 months to respond formally to what is being recommended or proposed from the European level. After Malta has submitted its responses, based on that, there could be an ongoing communication, or potentially Malta could be taken to the European Court of Justice in order to find, to have a conclusion on whether Malta would have to can keep its program, amend its program, or potentially stop the citizenship by investment program altogether. So at this point in time, there is no clear indication that the Citizenship for Exceptional Service regulations is going to be stopped altogether. However, at the very least, we could expect changes to take place to the regulations. But potentially, there is also the possibility that 6, 12 months or a bit later down the line, we cannot exclude the possibility that the Citizenship for Exceptional Services regulations will be stopped altogether. In terms of the permanent residency program, it's not as drastic. So the intention, at least from the vote that passed through the European level, is that there should be an element of harmonization. So there is not the talk of an outright ban of such programs. However, again, we could see changes coming into place. So based on all of this, the question that many interested applicants have is, should I apply now? And obviously this question can be answered primarily based on experience that we have faced in Malta when previous programs were amended or terminated. And what usually happened is that a cutoff date is put into place. Individuals who would have applied or started the process under that specific set of regulations before the cutoff date would be allowed to proceed under those regulations. Obviously, if an individual does not start the process before the cutoff date that is put into place, then that individual would not be able to proceed under that set of regulations. So if either or both of the programs are amended, terminated, or effectively, if they are amended or terminated at some point in the future, if applicants would have started the procedure under the previous regulations that would have been in place, which are the ones that we have now, from experience, those applicants in the past were allowed to pursue the program until their application is approved or rejected, of course. So, in essence, if an individual is interested in applying under Citizenship for Exceptional Services, they are able to apply under the regulations. Now, whether the same regulations will be available in the next few months, that is a question mark that is yet to be we need to find out what happens between the Maltese government and European level politics. As the same applies for the Malta Permanent Residence Programme. However, as I mentioned, it is not as drastic as the situation with the Citizenship for Exceptional Services regulations. So if any of you are interested in applying under any of these two programs, suggestion would be to reach out, and the contact details will be available on a further slide. We can discuss your individual situation and see what options are available, so you can take it from there. Now, if you wish to have a meeting and you are not in Malta or not able to travel to Malta at the moment, I have plans to be in Istanbul, Turkey towards the end of May. So that's in a few weeks. And also a second visit is planned towards the end of June for the USA, specifically LA and New York. If there are other locations, we are still setting the agenda, our travel agenda for the rest of the year. So please do let us know. And if there is interest, we shall, or I will consider visits to other jurisdictions. So I can actually meet you directly outside of Malta. On the other hand, if you do want to get to Malta in order to have an exploratory visit and get a feel for the island, we would also consider assisting you in coordinating an exploratory visit, and we can also set up consultation meeting in Malta in person. Of course, with current technology and as we have the webinar now, we also have the opportunity to set up a Zoom consultation in order to deal with your requests remotely as well. So in essence, I think the point of this webinar today was to tackle a lot of questions we're receiving about obviously how the conflict is impacting Malta, what is the situation with COVID in Malta at the moment, and how easy or difficult is it to get to Malta. And at the end of the day, I think the point is that considering the situation compared to a few months ago, the situation in Malta is improving. In fact, if you do get here, you will notice a lot more tourists are in Malta already. Businesses are doing relatively well compared to a few weeks ago as well, and things are picking up again. So hopefully we will only see things get better, and we do look forward to hearing from you. So on the next slide, it's about the next steps. So effectively, how to get through to us. I do thank you for your attention. I'll pass it on to Anna now for the concluding remarks, and we do hope to hear from you, and I hope to also meet you in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Attar. And thank you for attending our webinar today. If you have any questions about what we have covered today, or if you would like to have some additional information, you can visit our website at malta-citizenship.info. Also, we have our YouTube channel where we have several videos about the immigration programs in Malta and also previous webinars. You just need to search for Zenturo Limited on YouTube and you will find us. And if you would like to book a consultation, please use our link, which is malta-citizenship.info/consultation. And of course, you can always reach us by email. You can send us an email to service@zenturo.com. Thanks again and have a great day.